Our development as human beings grows out of experiencing our world. Through the channels of our senses, we reach out to that world and learn about it and about ourselves. But what happens to development and to learning and to feeling when some of those senses are impaired? When a person's experience relies on touching even more than on seeing or hearing or speaking. This is the story of one such person. This is the story of Esther.
Tell us about the experiences around Esther's birth. When did you first find out that there was something wrong?
About a week after she was born, it was thought that she was premature. I had to leave her in the hospital for a week. And then after that week, they called me back and said they had discovered that she had a hole in her heart. We went back over my pregnancy because it said that I could have had germ measles, which I didn't know, but I do recall that I had a rash. So, and that I had to have had germ measles, and they told me that it would affect her eyes, her hearing, and her heart. And so they just, said that they would keep treating her and keep her in the hospital. So this went on, she stayed in the hospital for a whole year. They really didn't, at that time, really give me any hope, that she would make it. They really didn't think that she would make it. It was just a matter of time, they would say.
Thank you, thank you.
Did anyone ever give you any suggestions or any ideas as to what you should do with Esther?
Oh, yes. That happened all the time when I would take her to the clinic. They would always say, ask me would I like to have her put in a home, and I would always tell them no. But I would like to keep her home and do the best I could for her at home with her other brothers and sisters. And there was one instance where I had to take her to the well baby clinic. That's where she was, supposed to have been going, but on account of her condition, she would have to go to crippled children. So when they called me to the desk, and we started talking, she hands me these forms, already written up, ready for me to sign, to have her sent to law, I believe it is. And I told her no, I didn't have to send her that.
Every child's instructional program must be designed to meet her individual needs.
Look what you did. That was good languages. I need a truck.
Even more is this true of a multiply handicapped child like Esther. Esther's teacher, as well as her mother, needs a precise knowledge of her present stage of growth in order to develop a plan that will help Esther discover her own potential, that will help her to grow socially, mentally, emotionally, perceptually. Esther is deaf-blind. Her hearing and visual impairments are not total. But these deficits in combination require very specialized programming. A deaf-blind child like Esther is seen throughout her life by many diagnostic specialists.
Teddy bear?
We presented different objects, and we started out to see if Esther would pay any attention to visual stimulus beyond 6 feet, which she didn't appear to do. Then we brought in objects closer, and at arm's length and within 6 feet, Esther seemed to pick up moderate-sized objects, and then very close, she would pay attention to very small objects. She had pupillary responses to light. However, her pupils were slightly irregular, and this was probably due to her previous cataract surgery. Most of the time, she appeared to fixate with her left eye and did not use her right eye. By no means do we expect with this rubella syndrome that she'll see much better than, let's say, 2200 vision, but certainly glasses may improve her, and it may take time to notice the improvement with the glasses.
Look in the ears, okay? It's okay, Esther. Just for a minute, okay? Put your hands down. Esther is not really deaf. She does have residual hearing. At 2,000 hertz, the hearing loss is at least 80 dB and may be profound. I think there is, if you just wanted to go on probability theory, a good chance that she can hear throughout the frequency range because rubella children usually have a trough-type audiogram with residual hearing across the frequency range. There you go.
She'd had surgery for congenital heart disease, which is classical again in the rubella child.
That's the girl. That's the girl.
I thought that Esther's physical condition was superb.
She's enjoying that part of the exam a little bit.
She was healthy. She was well cared for. Nutritionally, she was in top condition. Her head size, even on just a cursory glance, appears to be smaller than average size. And this is not uncommon with rubella children, which accounts for the mental retardation that is associated with the eye problems, the cataracts, the hearing deficit, and the congenital heart disease.
During these first formative years,
Specialists like these prepare individual reports of their findings, but dialogue with the teacher or other specialists is often lacking.
Therefore, I don't
Recognizing this lack of opportunity for direct communication, the Maryland State Department of Education and the public schools of the District of Columbia jointly convened a training institute for people working with deaf-blind programs. The objectives of this institute were to illustrate the diagnostic process and integrate its information into a comprehensive educational program. Esther was chosen as the focus of their attention. Teachers and diagnosticians alike recognized the uniqueness of Esther. They were wary about generalizing from her situation to that of others. But a critical part of the Institute was to achieve a more in-depth understanding of a process that could apply to other multiply handicapped children as well. In the weeks before the Institute, 11 diagnosticians entered Esther's world. They came to know her from the vantage points of their respective fields. At the Institute, their varied findings and points of view would meld together in order to fertilize the growth of a whole child. These separate findings would be combined to apply to 6 specific areas to be focused on in the classroom. Each diagnostician contributes valuable information in several of these areas. Esther does receive patterns of information from her world. Her teachers and diagnosticians need to know how much of her information is auditory.
The audiologist, the teacher, and the speech pathologist should be getting their heads together in terms of trying to work out some type of auditory training program for Esther.
Esther.
Sit.
The speech therapist began by focusing on Esther's responses to environmental sounds. Responsiveness could be a clue to her awareness of spoken language.
Are you ready? You want to try these? I know you like these.
The audiologist also approached Esther, knowing that even below the level of intelligible speech, sounds can carry meaningful environmental information.
Good!
Esther's limited experience with sound made precision testing difficult. The audiologist concluded that the rewards of token reinforcement would help Esther begin associating sounds with meaning. That meaning could take the form of play, food, or light reinforcement.
Okay, good girl. Good girl.
Communication and language are not limited to sounds and vocalization. Educational planning involves learning how Esther communicates and how she can be helped to develop a system of communication appropriate for her.
She does not make all that many sounds to begin with. She did not stimulate for other sounds than the ones that she typically makes, so I could not switch her off of the ones that she makes. It's very apparent to me that Esther is not going to use oral communication, certainly at this time, to get across anything that is important to her.
Yes, that was a good one. Very good.
Esther, I really do believe that this child, in a strong programmed approach, could use more manual communication.
Good girl, yes.
Esther does imitate some signs, but they're not done accurately because she seems to rotate her hands. And I wonder if she's having trouble processing, watching, and putting it all together and duplicating it herself.
I find it a bit deceiving. I think she has coordination, but not at all in a sustained sense. It's very short in duration, and it's almost like as soon as she starts to think about what she's doing, the coordination ceases to function. She seems to lose track of what one part is doing while the other part is taking function. Now, usually if a child has a really nice established dominance pattern, when they go to throw the ball, they'll put it into their better hand. You notice she didn't do that. Whatever hand it was in, that's the one she went with. I see Esther's coordination as being good in a very structured situation.
More than one diagnostician noted Esther's need for structured situations. Such situations help her control her movements and more effectively move her body in space. Without limits of structure, Esther's control and involvement break down. She then literally flings herself at the space and people around her.
Another thing is the limited use and limited integration of Esther's trunk mobility into the rest of her motor behavior. She has very strong movements, but her trunk remains relatively rigid. This gives her less to work with in terms of grading her movements. Her trunk doesn't have the mobility to give her the range of movement that she might have. I don't think this is a major, major problem with Esther. I think on the whole, she moves very well, and she seems to enjoy physical activity considerably, but you will see this characteristic impulsive movement in Esther.
Often we find with a deafblind child that there is a balance problem. So we ask the child to spend some time on the Mary Molehill balance platform. This should give us a clear cue as to any problem which might be present.
The many ways Esther relates to her world give indications as to her educational potential. The educator assessed Esther's ability to pick up clues from her environment as to the use of objects and her relationship to them. To what extent does she acquire clues about the function and use of a ladder, or a ball, or a slide, or a box, or a mat? Does she receive conflicting clues, or no clues at all? The speech therapist also noticed Esther's ability to pick up clues about the use of objects. She saw in this a possible indication of Esther's potential facility for language.
Comb. Esther. Baby. Yes. Good girl.
But the psychologist noted that Esther did not make best use of her available senses in picking up clues as to the meaning of objects.
Many children with sensory handicaps do have an overdeveloped sense of fragrance to identify the world. She, at this stage of the game, seems not to at all. The flower that you saw her pick apart was a fresh carnation with a very strong fragrance. I tried to get her to smell that, but it was of no interest to her at all. It was as if her sense of smell really wasn't working at all. Or at least she didn't use it in a patterned way to get information. She quickly understood how the squeezer worked, the fact that the orange had to be cut, that it had to be pieced in, that it then had to be, the handles had to be gripped and pressure exerted. That she understood instantaneously, and the spatial relationships in that she handled very well, even to knowing that the orange would fit inside the glass when she threw it in.
The occupational therapist also noted Esther's ability to work with the concept of size and shape, similarities and differences between three-dimensional objects.
Okay. Now, very good. Let's sort of change the... Very good, Esther. Very good. And I'm all sure.
Esther's functioning with lines and forms of the two-dimensional world was more limited as she tried to imitate and distinguish line and shape.
I could not get any patterned activity of perception based on visual discrimination that did not also involve touch. She is also extremely distractible. It's difficult to keep her centered in sequential activity a lot of the time.
Come on in. Get to work.
Esther, which way does the ego? Show me with your hands. Over. Which way? No. Shoe. Okay. No.
You really fought for her. You really had to. You almost lost her several times, and you had to go through a lot with her. What was she like when she first entered the pilot school? Was she able to do anything for herself?
No, she wasn't toilet trained. She wasn't eating, and she wasn't walking. And she started walking, and then up one day she just decided that she wanted to go to the bathroom, so she went. She's been doing everything.
Sure. But what about now? What is it like with Esther at home now? And what do you see her able to do for herself now?
I regard her as one of the other kids. She gets around the house and does for herself. She can wash her face. She can put on most items of her clothes. She loves to wash dishes. It's not the steadiest person in the world. She's just washing fast and throwing the dishes just away and probably on the floor. But it's in her way. She's washing the dishes. And when food is being put away, you could find canned goods in the icebox and the meat in the cabinet.
Among Esther's many strengths is her sense of order and cleanliness, which her mother and teachers will help her refine. Throughout Esther's life, there will be the need for adaptations. These may range from glasses and hearing aid to the learning of gestures and signs. Esther's teachers will help train her to move about her world and function within it. Orientation and mobility programs will train Esther to move through her world with safety and confidence. In addition, much of her environment will need to be modified. That modification may mean such a simple adaptation as adding a safety pin to a zipper, or even more dramatic changes.
What are the things that you feel that you would like to see happen for Esther now? Now, you've fought for a long time to keep her out of an institution. What do you feel about her as she's getting older now? She's 11, she's going to be becoming a teenager, you're going to see different things happen, and what are your concerns about her now, what's going to happen to her?
Well, the concern of her going into a teenager and adolescent stage, that is a big concern.
Mm-hmm. And what specifically would concern you about that?
Well, as her becoming a teenager and going into womanhood.
Becoming a woman and maybe getting involved with, say, men in the community or something? Does that worry you about that?
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Because, by her being retarded, then you never know what could happen because she's really anybody could come along and take advantage of her or anything.
I think that's a real concern.
Yes.
The diagnosticians, as well as her mother, were concerned with Esther's indiscriminate affection for people. Her tendency to fling herself into space has a parallel with her manner of relating to others. Despite her expression of joy in relationships with other people, Esther also demonstrates self-abusive behavior when she is not experiencing satisfaction. Both modes of behavior need to be focused on in the educational program.
No.
You've got teenagers now. They're getting older. They're going to be leaving home, getting jobs, having their own homes. What do you see for Esther?
Well, that seems, I guess it has to go as to what she will learn as she gets older, but it seems like that I'm going to have to be around her all my life, all her life, and then somebody else will have to be with her.
With these diagnoses complete, dialogue and planning would now begin. During the Deaf-Blind Teacher Training Institute, the diagnosticians were able to interpret their findings to teachers. Both groups in this unique experience would come away respecting the need for direct exchange of information. With such an exchange, the process of an individualized educational program for Esther has now been set in motion.
Goals for the next school year, we, like almost everyone else, decided that we had to increase her attending behavior to the person working with her and to the task at hand. We wanted her to develop a vocal awareness of getting attention on her part, how if she made a sound, she would be able to get a response from a person. We wanted to encourage Esther to express her needs in signs by structuring her environment more so that she would have to let us know by signs what she needed.
Another thing that we would like to do is increase peer interaction through working on enjoyable activities like wading in the pool or whatever is enjoyable to her with others.
I think it's very valid to say that Esther can learn splinter skills, and that's certainly been proven here. The point is that are we going to try to get Esther to be an integrative person who can function in a general world and make these generalities, or are we going to try to teach her to be a mechanical person who can perform this task when it's set beside her, but when she gets one that's only similar, she's not going to be able to make the association?
The task of integration resides within the child, and the potential for the development that that child will show is, from my point of view, a sacred given. And while our task is to aid that unfolding process in any way we can, it is not to dictate. I think in Esther's case that she's a magnificent achievement. When one looks at the things that have gone against her and the level of development she has achieved in health and in what she can do and what she can understand, she is already a major success story.